Sup world, we got a brand new kid on the block this season for Rogue. This is the Heartseeker build you may have seen me write up on Maxroll before season launch, and there are lots of good things to say about this setup. This is one of the easiest builds to play for sure. For most content, such as Helltide, Nightmare Dungeons, and low level Pit, you can literally just dash around, spam Heartseeker all day long, and kill everything. Once geared enough, you don't even have to use the rest of your skills on your bar for this content if you don't want to, and Heartseeker has a homing attack, so you can't even miss. At the same time, this is a hard build to master when you add in Smoke Grenade and Caltraps into the equation, as both of these are necessary if you really want to scale your damage high. It is the key for high level Pit. This build speed farms fast and clears bosses well, and there's nothing that this build can't tackle, but beware. It does take a little bit of prep to get it going, and I wouldn't recommend playing this setup until you've reached roughly 25% lucky hit chance, level 15 glyphs, and vulnerable damage everywhere you can get it. We're only 3 days into season 4, and I'm still recovering from surgery, so my gameplay footage is on the light side of things, as I can't blast as much as I would like to. But this build is capable of doing tier 120 plus in Pit convincingly. Be sure to check me out on Twitch for more gameplay. I can honestly say this is the most fun I've had on Rogue so far, and I hope you'll enjoy this too. Alright, so let's go over the skills first. Obviously you take Heartseeker because Heartseeker is the crush of the build. You're building around Heartseeker to be able to proc Victimize later on down. You come and take the primary Heartseeker passive. Do not take the fundamental Heartseeker. I know it gives you 15% more critical strike damage, but the idea is for you to hit more times. That's more times to proc Victimize, so you want the ricochet from Heartseeker so you can do good damage. Coming down here, we take Stutter Step, then we come down and take Shadow Step. Shadow Step with Discipline Shadow Step allows us to move around quite a bit, as well as get out of any dangerous crowd control situations, so it's very nice to have. Also, it's good to be able to set up for Caltraps later on down. So we do take Caltraps here. I prefer this one over the Discipline Caltraps to get the chill and the freeze to happen faster. I know you have some freeze tempers on your gear too as well. I just typically like just to get them there, well, even faster. But if you're lacking some crit chance, going for Discipline Caltraps is actually very good for that. We do pick up Weapon Mastery for extra damage. You come down here, you take Dash, and we take Enhanced Dash for the extra damage whenever you do dash do things. We also take Concussive. Concussive is a very good passive here because they're always knocked down due to us being able to daze from the tempering on our gear, as well as Smoke Screen. So when we take Trick Attacks, this allows us to knock down dazed enemies. Therefore, we have pretty much almost a permanent uptime on Concussive on just regular mobs and elites. Coming down, we take Agile, Dodge, Self-Explanatory, good for defense. Dark Shroud, very, very important that you max this out because it is really your biggest line of defense. So you want to max this out completely. I like to take the movement speed just because I like to be faster. I stutter step a lot, so I like to be agile and be aggressive and dodge things. But if you're low on crit chance, you can go with the Countering Dark Shroud to kind of get more crit chance that way. Smoke Grenade we take here, and we take Enhanced Smoke Grenade to Countering Smoke Grenade, so therefore we can have a higher uptime on Smoke Grenade in general. And also, of course, the 25 additional multiplicative damage here. And the last one is Poison Trap. And this isn't really something you have to take. I actually prefer Poison Trap. You can do Death Trap if you want to pull mobs in. You can even do Flurry with combo points just to get its attack speed, so you can attack with Heartseeker faster. That's another option too as well. I just typically like the Poison Trap because I get to set up like an additional line of defense in case they do walk over the Caltraps, so it keeps them in place to be frozen faster, as well as it works really well with Trap Mastery and giving me more crit chance. So 12% more crit chance is actually very nice to have, so we can scale our damage up quite a bit. So that's kind of why I like Poison Trap in this build, and it's up often. Exploit and Malice, self-explanatory. You want those for damage. We do want to take Frigid Finesse because of course we're chilling and we're freezing them often. We already discussed Trap Mastery, so we'll skip that. And we take Adrenaline Rush just to get to Haste, so we can move faster. Of course, moving faster, go to on the road, always has been. And the last thing is Victimize, which is basically what the entire build is wrapped around. So you want to try to get as much vulnerable damage as you possibly can because it scales this particular passive. And yeah. And the last thing is our specialization. We take Inner Sight. Now, of course, we don't have any core skills, so we're not spamming any core skills. So you wonder why we're taking it. Well, we're doing it for the crit chance. So when we have full energy, we get 25% additional crit chance. So this is a way to be able to help scale our crit chance to crit considerably more when this is active and when this is up. All right, so before we start talking about gear, I want to reiterate that you do not want to build into this build until you have roughly around 25% lucky hit chance and pretty much vulnerable everywhere on your gear, as well as vulnerable tempers, simply just because the build just really will not function without being able to proc Victimize quite often, as well as have a high value of that. So also make sure that your glyphs are pretty high level too as well. I recommend 15, at least level 15 across the board before really building into this. So with that being said, you get to kind of see my potato gear that I have right now. Just kind of just scrap this up. Most of this is only like level 1 masterwork, and missing some gems, of course, obviously. So, but I'm going to run down this pretty quickly because it's easier just to see in the planner exactly what stats you really should go. But here we have the helmet. I actually didn't even have Hectic in the gameplay video. I actually forgot to put it on when I found this helmet. It was some random aspect that didn't even work. But anyways, most important stat here, lucky hit chance by far. Make sure you try to get that. A tempered dodge chance, also a utility chance to slow is really good too as well. It helps with the cheap shot board and also gives you defense. And you want Hectic as an aspect. Coming down here for armor, most important stat is Dark Shroud. I think I mentioned it earlier that Dark Shroud is Rogue's most important skill. You want as many ranks to Dark Shroud as you possibly can, so therefore you can stay alive. It's really your only real defense. Everything else around is just kind of whatever you need. Here I rolled Dex, I have maximum life. It is what it is. Tempered dodge chance here. I did a utility, works with a different aspect, concussive. We'll talk about that later, as well as trick attacks and other things. And we have Umbrus because that's going to allow us to be able to proc the Dark Shrouds that we need to stay alive. Coming down here to gloves, most important stat here is going to be probably lucky hit chance again. Lucky hit chance is very important. Vulnerable damage or attack speed, dexterity or attack speed, whatever it rolls. Temper vulnerable, also temper utility here. I rolled freeze. It happened to roll freeze there. And then I also got frostbitten aspect, and that is going to give you 25% multiplicative critical strike damage against frozen or stunned enemies. Then we go down to the pants. We have the most important stat here is Heartseeker by far. Make sure you try to get ranks of Heartseeker. Then temper maximum life, didn't really want it, but ran out of tempers, you know, happens. Temper utility, here it roll freeze. And I got might for the aspect, and that's going to help with damage reduction. For your boots, you really want the attacks reduce evade cooldowns by 1.5. It happens very often because you're attacking really fast, so you're going to get that all the time. Most important stat, movement speed. You want to temper movement speed too as well, because this is all the movement speed you really want to try to get on gear. The other temper is utility. Chance to stun is what it rolled here. Dodge chance is very good on boots too. I got resistance to all elements. It just happens. You can do dex, whatever you need to be able to help out with your defense. And then the aspect you want is concussive. This gives you a chance to daze and also gives you more damage whenever they are dazed. So very good for that too. When we go to weapons, for all weapons, you want dexterity, maximum life, and vulnerable damage for all three. You also want to temper vulnerable damage for all three. On the weapon, you want Heartseeker projectiles to cast twice. That's very important because that's where a lot of your damage is actually happening, because you're able to cast multiple Heartseekers with just one Heartseeker. You know what I mean? So very good there. You also want the very same exact thing on one sword. Okay. And once you do, you're going to have about 100% chance to proc the Heartseeker, so you can't get any higher. So on the last weapon, we actually take Caltrap size here. So it makes it easier to be able to get a lot of enemies into the caltrops, and that's going to help with more damage there. For the aspects for the weapons, we have Moonrise. Moonrise is very important. You want that on your two-hander for sure. It is the highest DPS you're going to be able to get on a two-hander for an aspect. Then for a sword, I have a Cursed Touch. This is a very easy way to be able to get vulnerable outside of exploit. You can roll vulnerable on a ring if you get lucky enough to do that, and you can drop a Cursed Touch for something else. I didn't get lucky enough for that, as you see, so had to run a Cursed Touch. I like it. It's really not bad. It's actually really good for higher up hits, so you can run with that here. For your other weapon, Aspect of Elements, again, just more raw damage. Before I go on the rings, I do want to mention that this is a crossbow. You can do a bow. Typically speaking, crossbow will hit a little harder. Bows will attack faster. It's going to end up to be roughly around the same DPS no matter what. But the crossbow comes with vulnerable damage. And while it's only 32%, when you're just building a build at the start, that 32% actually does matter at the start. So crossbows kind of what you might want to do earlier on, and then later if you want to play a bow, you can do that too as well. Going to the rings, basically attack speed, vulnerable, lucky hit chance, also crit chance is good here too as well, whichever ones that you can get and roll. You really want agility cooldown. Caltrops cooldown is what roll for me for a temper. It is what it is. You want vulnerable as well. And then for your aspect, you want Edge Masters, which is just more damage for having a full globe of energy. Going to your other ring, similar thing, attack speed, crit chance, lucky hit chance. You can also get vulnerable or dex, temper vulnerable as well. Get rapid for attacking faster for your basic attack. And then for your amulet, this is going to be tricky because amulets is very hard. There are a lot of passives that you can get. There's Frigid Finesse, there is Exploit, there's Malice, and they're super rare on amulets. So here's a baseline amulet that's good as a starter. Attack speed, critical strike chance, lucky hit chance. All three of those are really good and easier to get. So that's what I went for, because yeah, I tempered vulnerable, of course, because vulnerable. And then I did total armor here so I can help cap up my armor, but that's just, you know. And then we take adaptability for our last aspect on the amulet, and that just also boosts your basic attack damage quite a bit too as well. Try to get as high as you possibly can. As you see, still got a pretty low roll, still got some work to do there. For gems here, I recommend the Emerald because you're gonna get a lot of life and health through your gear from Paragon nodes as well. And so really to just maximize your damage, the dexterity gems are kind of really the way to go. You get 500 dex for putting them all, you know, the max gems all in your slots here. If you're feeling a little glassy or you want to play a little bit closer up, you can just go with rubies. That also gives you a ton of health as well. Either way works. I just prefer dex because I do play at a distance and I do stutter step a lot. So that's that. For your weapons, you do want the sapphires. That gives you vulnerable damage, self-explanatory. When it comes to the rings, you do want these three type of gems. You do want the amethyst, you want the topaz, and you want the ruby. Because on your Paragon board, you're going to pick up cold resist, and you're also going to pick up poison resist. So you should be able to cap your resistances by doing it that way as well. And you'll see later on in this video. So for the Paragon board, I just decided to just go to my planner because it's just much easier to see than trying to maneuver it on like inside the game. It just doesn't zoom out far enough. You can check out the planner link as well as the Maxroll Heartseeker guide in the description below. So we start with the starter board here and we take control. We take the more obvious things. Also make sure we pick up resilience. We move on to exploit weakness board. We take ranger onto this board. And we take artifice as well as dosage. And this board, we have to take a lot of things. We also take the exploit weakness. It's a multiplier. You definitely want that. You do want more vulnerable damage too. So you take exploit. You also want to come here because you want damage reduction from vulnerable enemies. Is also very good. And this rare node, core resilience, is how we start to get our other resistance that I was telling you about earlier in the gear section part of this. So this is where we do take cold resistance, we help with that, and we also get maximum life for it too. We go to the Lyrana's Instinct board and we take pride and we pick up tolerance, and as you can see we get quite a bit of all resistance here to help cap. Then we move to the right here so we can cap out the poison, also get some more life. We come up here, board number 4, board no witness, and we take diminish, and we pick up training so we can get a bunch of extra life here because we're, bonus to rare nose here. Now, if you don't want diminish, I know in the build that I ran earlier in the video, the gameplay video, I actually did ambush instead of diminish for the extra trap damage. If you want to do that though, you will want to put ambush here on this board and then put pride on this board, so you don't have to change any points around at all. It's just an instant swap or whatever. But if you're going to do this, you're going to have a little bit less all resistance, so just make sure that you're still capped. You want to go the more DPS route for yourself. For the 5th board, we come to the top, we take daily ambush, and we have the exploit glyph here. This is the only glyph that we max out all the way to max. We get 54 strength for it because of course it's vulnerable damage. We definitely pick up deadly ambush because it is a multiplier and we're using traps. And then we pick up our last little bit of poison resistance as well as maximum life. And then we exit out this board to cheap shot. We put chip in for cheap shot, and we pick up safeguard because we definitely want damage reduction. We pick up cheap shot just in case that you are pretty close to the mobs. Generally speaking, you really don't want to be unless they're like crowd controlled, and then you get extra multiplicative damage when that happens. Then you want to pick up wows here for the damage reduction because we do have slow tempered on our gear, so we are able to get that. Pick up a few more there for that, and that's pretty much it. And that's it. Currently, this is my favorite build to play. It's so good for speed farming, great for pit, great for bosses. It just does a little bit of everything. It's super simple to play on the surface. And then the more tryhards who like to stutter step and add all the traps and stuff and the smoke grenades to get all the additional damage buffs. I mean, that's there too as well to make the build scale like really well. So hope you have as much fun playing this build as I'm currently playing it. Make sure to continue to check out my channel for more videos to come because I will be doing more build guides pretty soon. And as always, till next time.